kind of like emo, like goth. She's kind of like a goth girl.
Well, that's cool because I can talk about Mexican babies and I won't be able to
Oh,
hear
shut up.
her objections or anything to me talking about what I think should happen at borders. I'm just kidding. I've heard you the whole time, Emily.
I know.
How's school?
Nothing more frustrating than. Anyways,
How's school?
there's nothing more frustrating than Microsoft.
Oh, break it down.
So, we're dealing with all sorts of nonsense. So, the nonsense being that apparently the state has tied our funding to whether we can prove that we're actually teaching or not. Freaking stupid.
Isn't it like a redundancy?
Yeah. So like, I mean, what do they think that we're doing? Do they think that we're like tap dancing? I don't know. But they're making us so the school is insisting on having everybody post like video recordings of their Zoom classes every day. So of course the files are too big to like be uploaded directly to like the gradebook. So they're all supposed to be posting it on Microsoft on their OneDrives and uploading and like posting a link. But they can't figure out how to make a goddamn link that works. And it's driving me up the goddamn wall because I'm answering like silly questions every day.
So they, being Microsoft, can't figure out how to make a link that works?
No, well, they being the other teachers, like Microsoft plays around with like all the privacy settings, and I can't count the amount of times I've received an email this week that says a student contacted me and told me that they got a window that said access denied when they tried to open the class video. So here I am, I'm spending hours troubleshooting this darn thing. Like I'm sorry, I need a raise. I'm not here to correct Bill Gates. Ain't no one got time for that.
So what else? Is it just that?
Well, there's that. And then there's the fact that they can't make up their mind as to whether they want to be open or not. Or rather, the state can't make up its mind on whether they want us to be open or not. We got all but 2 weeks of remote work and then sent back to the point where kid says to me, "Can't you guys just make up your mind? You've been in 4 different places on the Zooms in the past 5 days." It's a mess.
I'm sorry, is Joey coming back in? Because he just asked me a question in the chat.
He asked that question a while back, so because I responded like he said we got cut off, but that was like 15 minutes ago. He Irish goodbyed.
Well, I'm now answering him because I like him.
Yeah. So I asked him if he got cut off, but he didn't respond, so maybe his internet got cut.
Interesting.
You were talking about Joey.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're saying maybe his internet went out because he pulled an Irish goodbye.
People still want to go to movie theaters.
Well,
and restaurants.
We can't go to a movie theater or a restaurant on Monday.
I'm just watching people debate about the things they're upset about being closed or not available during COVID, and one of them is movies.
But don't they have Netflix?
Say again.
I said, don't these people have Netflix?
Sam said he'll be back soon. Yeah, but the thing is, like me and Mike are attached to a website, right, called Movie Addiction. I guess I'll plug it on the show. And it's pretty popular Facebook group. And a lot of these people in there are movie heads, like legit movie heads who enjoy, these are the type of people that like have prized DVD collections and enjoy going to movie theaters. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, even I enjoy going to like the movies occasionally.
I mean,
I haven't
I
been.
was always a big movie theater head, but I could take it or leave it in the 2020s.
That's what I mean. Like, I'm like, I enjoy going to the movies, but I'm not like
I don't
gravely upset that they're closed. Yes.
I don't get the connection between the DVD collections and going to the theater.
Well, there wasn't supposed to be. I was just explaining the type of movie heads that are in the group. Like serious movie heads that have like prized DVD collections and enjoy going to like, that's all I mean. I wasn't connecting the two outside of the fact that these are common traits of some of the people in this group that are like serious movie heads. There are people that'll post pictures of, their prized or vast DVD collections, as well as make posts about movie theater experiences because they, you know what I mean? Like they're hardcore movieers. Not all of them, but many of them. You understand what I'm saying? I wasn't actually linking, you know what I mean? Having DVDs with going to movies.
Although I am a fan of the movie theaters where you can order your dinner from your seat. Not gonna lie.
I've never been to one of those.
Yeah, the Alamo does that.
Yeah, like the Alamo or like,
and drinks.
Yeah.
I mean, in Europe, I've been to movie theaters where you can buy dinner and then go sit down and watch the movie, but I never had it where you could order it at your seat.
Yeah, like there's movie theaters like here where you can order it like at your seat and you can order drinks and stuff.
That's actually pretty dope. I'll probably never go to the movie theater again.
Why, now that you've discovered the joy of Netflix?
I mean, I love streaming. Listen, if I want to watch a movie, let me pay for it and I'll pay the movie theater price and sit on my couch and watch it multiple times.
There you go. Well, didn't one of the studios, I think it was Warner Brothers, they said they were going to release all of their movies like simultaneously on HBO Max?
Disney.
No, Warner Brothers is going to release them on HBO Max, not simultaneously, but all of their 2021 films are coming directly to HBO Max, which I'm so happy about because that means I get to watch Dune from the privacy of my home.
Yeah.
Anything AT&T owns is coming to Max. Yeah, the largest size TV. Well, not the largest, but the largest size TV that regular people can afford. I don't have like the 200-inch one that costs like 18 grand.
You don't have a movie theater in your house?
I want it's called the Wall. I would like it, but I'm not going to spend 18 grand on a TV that's going to be obsolete in 6 years. You know what I mean? But it's like 200 inches and it takes up a whole wall, which I think
that highly does not seem like a fiscally smart purchase.
No, but I mean, if I'm alive in 25 years where we have e-houses where like one wall is just like a flat screen, then I'll be down for that. But until that time comes, you know what I mean? Which I see that coming because I saw the movie Annie and it just makes sense. Like there are gonna be like electronic houses where like when you buy your house or you just say a wall will just be a flat screen. You know what I mean? Just the wall will be a flat screen. 25
years, like
it might even not even be 25 years.
25 years, don't be morbid. Most people live past 70.
Yeah, and it probably won't even be 25 years. It'll probably be within 15 years where there'll just be these electronic walls because you can tell with flat screen technology. I seen the movie Annie, the one with Jamie Foxx, and that opened my mind to a lot of things. And then after I saw the movie Annie, I saw the TV called The Wall, which was like it takes up a whole wall. It's like 200 inches. And it's like 18K. And I'm like, after watching Annie, and he owned I don't know if you've seen the movie Annie with Jamie Foxx. He owned a cell phone company. So he had technology that wasn't on the street yet, like a lot of people have who are into who are rich and
Who
have that
work
type
in
of money.
tech?
Yeah, he had, and so his house, when he brought Annie to his house, he had her speak so that his house's AI system could hear her voice, so that it would recognize her voice, so that she could like talk to the microwave and tell it what time without having to press the buttons.
That
She could
movie
say,
set us back.
she could like play music, and the house would just it was kind of like Alexa but a house.
Alexa house, play music.
Well, they have that.
Yeah, they do. And that's what I'm getting at. That's why eventually that's what people are going to have, right? They're going to have a wall. The entire wall is going to be a flat screen, and you can just watch a bunch of different things on it at once. And I'm down for that.
You know, that can't be good for people with ADHD.
Are you serious? Imagine zooming and I can like stand up in a room and you like see my, you know what I mean? Like that just be like zooming on your wall. And then your wall projects the room that the other people are in. So it's all like you're all in the same room.
Well, I could see that working. I was actually having this conversation the other day because they're talking about starting to bring kids back into the classrooms in like alternating days. So we're talking about like having like a quarter of the class in person at the same time as the other 3/4 are remote. So I was talking about saying, well, why don't we just project the Zoom onto the board so everyone could see each other?
Well, imagine this, and I can imagine classrooms in the future being like this. So I watch the Mandalorian television show, but I also watch, there's another television show attached to it called Making the Mandalorian. And it's just like 15 episodes, and they just talk about how they make the show. And what they did to make the Mandalorian, they wanted to stop using green and blue screen, right? And they didn't have the technology at the time, but they have it now. So how they film the Mandalorian is they have this room. It's a big room, and the entire room is every wall is a television monitor to include the ceiling. So they project every scene that you see. They're actually in a room when they're in the deserts. The only thing that isn't projected on this television monitor is what's on the floor. So if they're in a desert, they'll actually put sand on the floor, but they'll also have it projected on these monitors. And what they use is video game technology. So they render the scenes on the wall in real time, like a video game does. You know, if you're playing a video game and you
Oh, like
walk from
like
one
when VR goggles or something?
yeah, it literally renders it in real time. So you know, like you said, VR goggles. Like when you walk in a video game from one area to another, you don't have to wait for the area to load. It just like loads in real time. You understand what I'm saying?
We need
Like
that for the office Christmas party.
I mean, yeah, that would be dope. That way we could literally project everything, and it would all be like we're all in the room with each other. It's so dope because you could be talking to people overseas, like on a phone call or what have you, on a video call, and like it could be like you're both in the same room.
There's been a bunch of grousing this year about not being able to have a holiday party, so wish we could have that technology now.
Yeah. Yeah, that room is dope. When I saw it and I saw them standing in it, it's dope. They turn it off and they turn it on like you turn on the TV. And then every wall, including the ceiling. So like Flav, when you see Mando's spaceship, right? You never really see, it's never really a real ship. It's literally like you'll see like the doorway, and the door will be real, and the rest of the ship is just rendered on a television screen.
Okay.
And the only real part will be the actual door. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the rest is you're literally watching a rendering on a television screen.
So does this technology allow me to see what's going on and if my kids are actually paying attention?
Well, if you render them all in the room, right? If everybody zooms in and the television screen accesses them all and makes it just one image, then you'll see them all.
Because some of my kids, I swear to God, are like not all there during during remote class, and some of them are just, I'm not gonna lie, like when we go back in person, like I'm gonna miss having the mute button. Like
Yeah, that's next. We got to
What?
put microchips in people so we can mute people at our leisure.
If only.
I'm just kidding about microchips. I'm not a fan of that. But if they
I'm not
did,
a fan of microchips, but I'm a fan of muting people at my leisure. I have a kid who's
also I was looking for. Remember I said, what'd you do with my tomato? I'm on air, so I can't be talking about tomatoes.
Have you heard of a program called Gather?
what?
I may have.
Gather.
It's not unfamiliar.
It's someone was showing it to me at work. You go into this thing that kind of looks like a video game, and your icon, like you can like move your icon over until it touches another person's icon, and then you can like start up a conversation with them, and then you could do stuff like share screens and stuff like that. I didn't get to do it because there was only one other person in the room, and it kept saying that their icon was loading, and I just kind of got tired, and I expected more people to be in there, so I left. But it seemed interesting. But I guess it would be kind of like a part. It was supposed to be like a party, like an after party situation. So I guess like you can, roll around in there and then run up on someone and then decide to start up a conversation / share videos, files, or whatever. Like it would be like, being in a party situation and deciding who to talk to. And then I don't know how it works if you can also do it in groups of more than one at the same time, probably.
Interesting.
And then
Yeah, it is. It sounds like somebody's gonna make some money.
And then there were some rooms where there was like snooze and stuff like that, and I'm pretty sure there were games in there too.
So
yeah, definitely sounds like money.
So I've got a story of the week of like bold and brazen students in this week's episode of Bold and Brazen Students. So a couple of days ago, I had a student who actually tried to verbally make a weed transaction on a Zoom call.
Mm-hmm.
And like the kid was like,
he's like, I got what you want.
No, he
got
dead
what
said
you need.
basically.
Sorry.
Like, no, but he dead was saying like, yo, dude, can I pull up on you? My man's got like these pink runts and these nice exotics and da 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 da.
Oh, he thought he was like speaking in code or something?
Yeah, he'd think he was being slick. And I was like, no. Just no. Like, we're not talking about plants today. No, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, if I was in your class, I'd show up with my avatar. Because I know what class you teach. You told me. So I'd only be right if half the time I showed up with an avatar.
But I was just like, no, what the? No. Then he tried to ask this other kid if he could come by to pick up like an eighth or whatever, and the other kid's actually trying to do some work. So he looks up at so he unmutes himself and he's like, yo.
Did y'all just hear me get yelled at?
I didn't know that was you.
Yeah, it was me. Sorry.
Oh.
What'd you do?
I just got yelled at. So my wife has been trying to microwave a bowl of collard greens. So I walked over before she could while she was preparing her bowl, and I put my hot chocolate in the mic. And then when I pulled my hot chocolate out the mic, I realized there wasn't enough. So I poured coffee in the cup and put it back in the mic. And the whole time she's trying to. So then she finally puts her bowl of collard greens in the mic, and I determined that my coffee isn't hot enough. So I just went to stop the mic and take out her collard greens to put and she just yelled at me. She's like, stop.
Did you realize You do realize that if I were in your shoes, I would be in her shoes, I'd be pretty pissed too, right?
She's lived with me though. She knows how I am. That's why finally she was just like, stop.
Just like, knock it off.
Oh, you should have heard her with the roach post.
Oh God. Which she's like,
She
I
was
don't want
like,
people to know that we have roaches, or I want people to
listen,
think we have roaches.
I let
She
the
said
post
no.
stand
That's
for
funny. See the you've already created the narrative.
I let the post stand for 2 days. She was like, before the end of the day, make sure you clarify. She was like, why would you let people think?
He's like, ain't no one got time for this.
Yeah, I'll try to hit her with, listen, who cares what she is like, nah, bruh. She was like, yo. She is like, nope. So you have kids that think they can hustle. And so you can't even use this like in a classroom, you could like nip that in the bud, people get in trouble, right? It's not the same protocol when they talking code on Zoom, huh?
Well,
like what's your recourse as a teacher when you
I
know
mean, it's
someone
about
is
the same, but like,
Just tell them to stop.
it's about the same. Well, yeah, tell them to stop.
because I
But
mean it's like they're at home. You
my
gotta be
favorite
like
is,
they are
well,
at home.
I just tell them that like they're off topic and to focus on the work. But like we got this, but what was hilarious about it is it's this other kid that this kid was bothering, and it's like, I know that this kid is just like talking mad game because like he's flexing. That's all it is. Like he ain't got shit. Like,
Well, I was gonna say you could mess with them and be like, all right, you're off topic. No more mids. Let's get back to work. You know, kind of throw some shade in there at the same time.
oh, I'm sure I probably have. Like I think I said something. I think the kid was talking about one day the kid was talking about wedding cake in the chat box, which is actually a strain.
Mhm.
So I typed right back into the chat box. I said, "No thanks. My wedding was 10 years ago. I don't need none of your cake." And then the kid says out loud, "Miss P, how do you know what wedding cake is?" And then my co-teacher says, "What's wedding cake?" And I was like,
Co-teacher?
I team teach the class with one of my coworkers, and my coworker says, "What's wedding cake?" And I was like, you know what? I'll tell you when you're older. Like, these are some Zoom classes, I'll tell you.
I mean, legally, it's like almost the same because they're still like at school, right? So like,
I mean, here's the thing: when they were in person, they would get suspended if they were actually physically passing product to each other on school grounds. But if they're just talking about it, even if we were on school grounds, there's not a damn thing we could do about it.
Sure.
So there's
Gotcha.
not a darn thing we can really do about it on Zoom either.
Sure.
It's just annoying.
Yeah.
But usually but the best is when I get another kid who gets fed up and like basically like polices the whole thing for me.
Right.
I don't know if polices, I shouldn't use that word, but when the kid regulates the whole thing for me, like
He's like, yeah, your cake is stepped on. Nobody wants your cake.
Is it a carrot cake? No, but this kid,
bad memories.
This kid who was trying to hustle on the Zoom call, he was being so bloody annoying.
Yeah.
And finally, one of my students just says, "Would you shut the fuck up, man? What the hell is wrong with you that you're talking about this on Zoom where we're being recorded? Like, just shut the fuck up." And I almost had to turn off my camera just so I could laugh because the kid said exactly what I was thinking, but what I couldn't say because I obviously don't want to get fired.
Sure.
But I'm like, oh, thanks. That's a solid. You said exactly what I was thinking. But it was seriously kind of getting to the point where like I was about to pull the Biden on Trump and be like, would you just shut up, man?
Yeah. January 20th is coming up soon. It's gonna be
I have a
party.
question.
Yeah.
What?
Was the election a fraud?
No.
I know this one.
Was it?
In my country, I have seen corruption. I have seen corruption to a whole another level, not even close to what they did to this good white man. This good white man who is the new incarnation of God. Oh my God, what they did to him. Oh my God. It was a farce. He was corrupt.
Well, 18 states, right, are
Like it doesn't even, I can't even anymore. Like how, like I feel like I've never seen this happen in my life where like where so many people are legit questioning just because their guy didn't win. Like
That is
Like,
the
I mean,
brilliance. That is the
It's
it
brilliance
happened.
of
insane.
It
Donald
happened.
Trump.
It happened 4 years ago.
well, yeah, I guess that's true. But I think that like I don't know what it is. Like I'm not a psychologist, but there's some kind of mental hold that this guy has on people.
It is the mental hold of Jesus Christ.
Well, maybe it is, or at least I think it is.
I was gonna say because I mean we've been here before. It seems like this is gonna be the here on out thing. Like every election, we're gonna get this whole.
It has never been this bad before. Never been this
Oh,
bad
it's pretty
before.
bad 4 years ago.
People were pissed because Donald won, but it was not about election stolen this, elections
See,
stolen
you know
that.
what? It's interesting when you say it was never this bad. I think what you mean, and I think you're right. I think what you mean is the context. But as far as the actual by comparison, for sure. But if you're just talking about specifics, like, you know, the election, this election, that, like, you know, when Donald Trump won, liberals, come on, man. Me and you had this conversation. And I know not everyone, and I don't want to say liberals, people who were opposed to Donald Trump winning, literally came up with this idea, the whole concept of not my president, and calling him 45, and they did that for 4 years. And likewise, you could say, just as far as in that context, it had never been that bad.
Well,
Like,
yeah,
that was
I mean,
unprecedented as well.
we had never gotten such a brilliant person with no experience, you know, before like this. So
Well, I
the
mean, we
people
did have
were
Ronald
upset.
Reagan.
Yeah, even Ronald Reagan wasn't he a governor?
Yeah, but I'm speaking of. See, I'm not trying to make excuses for either side as to why. I'm just saying that on both sides, like right now we're seeing some things that we would condemn or think is crazy from those who oppose Biden winning, and you know we saw that from those who oppose Trump winning. Some crazy things. I'm not making excuse. I'm just saying it is what it is. Whatever the reasons were,
Yeah, the difference
still is what it is.
no one said it was a rigged election like that.
Oh yeah, they definitely said there was collusion.
No, I said that.
They
Collusion.
absolutely said there was collusion.
Collusion is different than they actually cheated.
Yeah, but now we're just talking nuances. I mean, okay, either way, there was still claims.
It is not a nuance.
It is in the sense that because what I'm saying
is saying that
hold on.
Russians influenced Facebook is different than saying someone came and took the votes away. That's what
But
they
what
do in my
I'm
country.
saying is,
Don't mess with
is
Facebook.
people are saying that people on both sides of the fence, they have gripes, and in both cases they are as ridiculous, whether they're different or not. Okay, they're different, they're still ridiculous. It's
But,
what I'm
I mean,
saying. They're both both those who opposed Trump when
so
he ran.
you do not think that all of this business with Trump and Russians has any fruition at all?
I don't think it does any more than I think that there was fraud in this election. I mean, I'm not going to be biased because I happen to lean towards one side or the other. I'm going to look at it for what it is. Again, hold on. What I mean is there needs to be a preponderance for evidence, and you have to prove it in both cases. If not, then I have to dismiss it.
Well, that's what the legal system how the legal system looks at it, and that's why all
Yeah.
these lawsuits are getting dismissed. Because
Yeah,
there's no evidence. They're not backing themselves up.
Yeah, and that's what I'm looking at. In both cases, if it's not proven, then I have to dismiss it. I'm not going by, what I feel.
Even if listen, it may not be technically illegal for a foreign government to mess with Facebook and have bots and all of that. So
it just wasn't proven.
Oh, it is illegal. It just wasn't proven.
Really, it wasn't proven. I mean, every day they show us, don't touch this one. It's not good. Not good news. Watch out for this article. It's not, it's been disputed. I mean, they keep coming up with information in the algorithm to show that you are about to click on something that has been proven to be very misleading. At the very least,
collusion was not proven.
Okay.
Any more than fraud is being proven. That's all I'm saying. So to me, it's like the same. All I'm speaking about, that's why I said it seems like there's this pattern that's going to continue from here on out that started with, when Donald Trump got elected, now Biden, now doesn't matter who gets elected next time, Democrat or Republican, one side or the other is going to have a gripe, and it's going to be, to me, like a ridiculous gripe unless proven.
That's probably
I can't
true.
wait for a bunch of Republicans to start calling Biden number 46 and saying hashtag not my president. It's going to happen.
They said that about Obama, though.
This is nothing new. This is all started with Obama and all of the racist bullshit that they had towards the first African president.
I mean, I think it goes further back than that. It just goes both ways. On both sides of the fence, it just goes both ways.
People said that about Bush too, though.
Yeah, they called Bush a fascist, and most people didn't even know what fascist meant. Just like when people were calling Barack Obama a socialist, and you don't even know what that means.
There have been accusations of cheating in presidential elections and rigged and fraud for like a long time. It didn't just start 20 years ago.
No, you're right. You're right. I'm sorry, go ahead, because you are right.
I mean, and I think the more the nation gets divided politically, the less, especially now in the age, I mean, it was happening like this before, but especially now in the age of social media, the more likely, so that's what social media does if you're not careful. It
polarizes.
It polarizes people. That's what happens when you just are looking only to connect with people who you agree with on certain things. It pulls you further away from like anyone else who might disagree with that position because they had a different life experiences, and so it tears the bridge apart rather than pulling it together. So
you are preaching, Sam.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Literally, when you said looking to connect with people that you agree with, that's like the nail on the head.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that because I don't think there's anything intrinsically wrong with that because, your whatever values you have that are important to you as a person that you feel are good and right, you're going to want to connect with people who agree with you on that because you feel like that's what you think is like making a better world. The problem is that with few exceptions, I don't think that there are that many absolutes in life. And
absolutely, there you go.
And I
had to
think
say
that,
absolutely.
thank you. It's fine. And but I mean, as far as back as the conspiracy theories, there's been rumors that Mayor Daley in Chicago stole the election for John F. Kennedy when he ran against Nixon in 1960 by having a whole bunch of dead people rise from the grave and vote for Kennedy in Illinois in 1960. So
the mobs leaning on the unions.
Yep. These conspiracy theories about have been going on for a while, and there was
They're just more amplified by Facebook.
Yep. And I remember in 2000, when it was voted that Bush Bush the election, Bush stole the election from Gore. Now I don't know. Now here's the thing. I actually think that is certainly a possibility because Florida, his brother was governor of Florida at the time.
And it was just way too close.
It was way too close. And I think what really made me double down in anger, and a lot of people on the left, was that the Supreme Court was even if Bush was going to win, they could have just been all right, let the rest of the votes get counted. But Bush's lead was narrowing. But if he was still going to win, there was nothing to lose. But they said stop counting the votes.
They said stop counting, and didn't Bush's brother make some kind of statement about doing everything in his power to make sure his brother won Florida or something like that? There was
something like that.
Yeah, there was some statement that he made that was very shady.
He may have said that. I don't exactly recall if he said that, but I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, he that was his, that was his brother. He wanted his brother.
I don't think it's shady.
So I don't remember him saying that, but I believe you that he did.
Not only that, I don't think it's shady for him to say that.
It was in a context that made people question a voting system that was already questionable. I mean, I don't know if that was the hanging Chads one or what have you.
Hanging Chads.
Yeah, that was the hanging Chads.
Yeah, so the way that he said it ish was when we were already getting into the specific counts and the the close countdown, and where you have a system where you can try to throw out the other side's votes and do this and that. It was just said in a way that made it sound like, oh, don't you worry, when it comes down to it, my brother will win this state one way or another.
I think it's really sad. I think we live in I think that especially now with the age of social media, I don't think Trump helped things at all. I think his rhetoric made things so much worse. But even aside from that, I think that in the age of social media, we have become so politically polarized that anytime, especially in a presidential election, outcome like this happens, and whichever side loses, will automatically start conspiracy theorizing. Not all. I mean, it doesn't happen always. It didn't happen. Actually, it didn't happen with Obama. Well, actually, what am I talking about? Yes, it did. But that was not that he. But they didn't theorize that he the election was stolen in terms of votes or anything like that, or outside interference. With him, it was more oh, he's not an American citizen. So they were
right.
He stole the election that way.
Right.
The birther stuff.
Right, the birther stuff. And as whether or not
who started that birther stuff again? Who was that?
Actually,
Trump.
Our current
president. It wasn't Trump. It was someone from Hillary's camp started spreading that rumor.
Really?
Back in 2007, yeah.
So Trump just ran with it.
Yeah, he ran with it. Yeah, he didn't start. He didn't I don't think he's smart enough to come up with that.
He definitely ran with it very early then, because he has been given credit for.
Yeah, I mean, the pros and cons of Obama's presidency can certainly be debated, at length, because there's plenty to go for in there. But they were definitely grabbing at straws to like come after him with anything they could, because at a character level, which is where they usually go after them, like they had nothing on him because the guy's really, he's just a rock solid guy on a human level, like happily married, you know, like everything's no sex scandals, no like, you know,
no prostitutes,
no accidental hit and runs in his youth. Like he, you know, he was really solid. So they were like furious that they couldn't get something on him. They were able to get something on Clinton, but it didn't matter because Clinton was just so popular and well liked that he sailed through anyway. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think Barack Obama's presidency will be, you know, as years pass, and I see it now too. Like people are starting to kind of wisen up and are willing to say what they weren't willing to say just a couple years ago about some of the negative aspects of his presidency. And you know, people are just, you know, kind of seeing it for what it is. I mean, I love the guy. I think he's great, but I also think that there was some things.
But he's still part of the establishment, and people are starting to say that publicly more now. I think is what you're getting at.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't really great for immigrants. He certainly wasn't great for soldiers. Like, you can kind of go down the list. You know what I mean?
He had there's a lot of down. There's a significant amount of negatives on the foreign policy side, on his foreign policy side.
Yeah.
I think domestically, I think he was pretty decent.
Yeah. The problem is, I don't like anybody's foreign policy. This is the thing.
He's got a huge list of great things that he actually did, like a very long list of things.
I mean,
he does.
Obamacare being like, you know, the gold star.
But I think like the big thing that I noticed,
spying on citizens being the big blemish.
Yeah.
Well.
Oh, but that's been going on for decades. Come on, who are we kidding?
Yeah.
On under Bush, but he didn't have to continue it.
Well, what bothered me with that was I hold every president accountable to how they use the Patriot Act, because I don't think it should exist. And he absolutely used that joint. Like he was like, you know what? Verizon, huh? He is like, Verizon, huh?
Yeah.
But here's the thing: is like, and this is like massively another topic for like multiple other days that have probably already occurred, but. Like how like the Patriot Act and surveillance are used ostensibly against marginalized communities.
Yeah.
Hey, according to this, it wasn't Clinton's camp that started birtherism, but this guy named Martin, actually back in 2004, who kind of like was dabbling in the whole Muslim thing. And then
so he started it in 2004.
Yeah.
Against Obama.
Yeah.
Obama
in 2004.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Wait, in 2004. Wow, it's funny. I didn't even know who Barack Obama was in 2004.
He was a senator.
That was the year he gave the DNC keynote speech.
Wow. So somebody jumped on that one right away. Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, Andy Martin, serial Illinois political candidate. Andy Martin. Oh, because he was a political candidate, so he must have been. That means he would have been running against Obama in 2004.
Probably for the Senate.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Oh, and he launched. Oh, this guy launched a presidential campaign as well.
Well, Obama was a rising star after they got rid of Daschle. And when I say got rid of Daschle just kind of disappeared.
When he deposed himself.
Like he was that dude for a while during September 11th, and then all of a sudden, Tom Daschle went away.
Tom Daschle, there's a name I haven't heard in a minute.
Yeah, he like went away, like like went away. Like literally, you were like the #1 Democrat in the world
Okay, so
during
some of her,
September 11th, and then he just went away.
some of Clinton's hardcore supporters kind of jumped on that. So that's yeah, I can see why that was attributed to her. And then Trump jumped on that bandwagon and made it seem even
It just
more
kept
like,
snowballing.
yeah, exactly. Trump took
Thank you
advantage.
for the
and,
thank you
Yeah.
for the history lesson, for that reminder. I forgot about that.
yeah.
I mean, it's necessary political strategy.
Yep.
What do you mean by that?
Just that.
What's necessary about it?
I believe it's necessary to strategize against your opponent. And if I can raise questions as to your birth, the legitimacy of your birth, then I should.
Yeah, I disagree. I disagree with that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's just art of war.
It's fighting.
Yeah, but that
dirty.
doesn't mean art of war doesn't make everything right.
Who said anything about politics is right?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I think it sounds like what you're trying to say is that it's not that like it's not that what people are doing is necessarily moral, but they're playing
Right.
the chess to try to get ahead.
Right. I'm not attaching an emotion or saying I think it's right or fair. I'm not at all. I'm not choosing to like I right and wrong to me doesn't apply when I make statements like that.
I don't think if
I'm
it's
talking about politics.
I understand your point of view. I do understand your point of view in terms of the art of war and politics. I don't think it's right or fair, and I don't think that because it's not right or fair, I don't think it should be done.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. I agree with that.
I think the less that we lie, I think the better people will be in general.
Well, I don't know that
I
they
think
were
that he
lying. I think that he brought into question his legitimacy of where he was born.
Well, it sounds like kind of what you're
Okay.
getting at too is like the
Ask
same.
the question and then wait. Then when you get an answer, and if the answer turns out to be true, that's the end of it.
No,
Yeah, exactly. Like they knew. Yeah, I mean, there's no such thing called deception, right? Like you're doing it with something in mind. Just because you can say, "Well, hey, I didn't say a lie. I just
Suggested.
the situation."
But isn't
that
along the same lines as like what ostensibly though is what a defense attorney does is pokes holes in the case even sometimes when
Yeah.
the person did do it.
Wait,
Good
what do you
point.
mean?
Strategize like people to strategize like oftentimes like attorneys like poke holes like in cases and like poke at every little thing even like regardless of whether it's moral or not, so it's kind of the same thing with like politics.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
true.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, Sam and I are saying that we disagree with that.
No,
with
I'm
that,
not.
you know.
Anybody is saying that they agree that it's okay. Like, for me personally, like I think it's just like not right. It's the game, and if the
Yeah.
other side's gonna play the game, then you really have no choice but to play it back.
And the fact of the matter is both sides are playing the game.
Yeah.
I always say like you don't like the point where I start to feel like
Are you having trouble hearing her? Or
situations.
is that just me?
Yeah, I am.
Can you
Okay.
hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry, I rolled over. No, but like, I think that, like
You're still coming in and out. It's not the mic. Is that mic connected to a battery or something? Because it's cutting in and out. Like it's not It's not how close you are to the mic. It's like that's the source is dying.
Well, it's wireless, so maybe I should switch back to the wired ones.
Yeah, the wired ones are based on batteries, right?
Though the wireless ones are based on batteries. The wired ones plug into the computer.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Your battery's dying.
But anyways. Can you hear me?
You notice that one? Does that one have the mic in it, or does the other one have the mic in it?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
But what I was saying is that I think that like we as a society, we put a lot of like just the general way people put a lot of emphasis on blaming the player for going along with the system, when what we really should be blaming is the game.
Yeah, you've been dropping that jewel recently. So like here's my take. I certainly do agree that the game is messed up the way that it's set up, but like I want to be clear. Like one side is willing to go further and what it's willing to do and say in order to win. One side is willing.
I disagree, but
I know that you do. You and I fundamentally disagree on this on a regular basis. One side is willing to like get dirtier and like get in the muck and like really like play this dirty, like, oh, he's not even an American. Like, look at him. He wasn't even born here. Like, they don't do that with white guys. They just don't. It's never been done before. And like the moment we get a black guy in there, all of a sudden, oh, where were you born? You're not even American.
You won't get any argument with me about that. But I think that but it's not even with that situation that I refer to it. Like, I personally think that like the other side should have gotten justice. I think the Democrats don't get dirty enough with the Republicans.
I agree
it's interesting. It's interesting because when you say, Mike, and that's why I'm glad Emily said that, because when you say one side gets dirtier, it doesn't say that the other side doesn't get dirty. And if that's the case, like if you're both dirty, so like how can you say, well, you're dirtier than me and I'm dirty too?
Because you can, because there's
I'm dirty
levels. Too. Yeah, so
there's level to being shady. Like, oh, like where do you draw the line at?
Dude, there's mad different levels to being shady.
Like, where do you draw the line?
You can run a red light and break the law, or you can murder 1,000 people. You can't just be like ish.
When it comes to politics,
like, well, we both broke the law. Who cares?
Where's the line at? Who came out and said, okay, we're both going to be dirty, but this is the line of dirtiness that we can't cross?
You're making everything so simple. It's just like, listen, like to me, I mean, many people agree with this. I just don't know why like this is like some crazy like thing that I'm saying, that it's like just this weird thing. Like, I mean, I would agree, if anything, poke holes in the fact that I, on the one hand, say one side is way dirtier, but on the other hand, I say Democrats actually should get dirtier. Like that's how
the term is thick as thieves. That's
What's that?
Thick as thieves. The term is thick as thieves.
Yeah, what about it?
Like you're a thief. Not you, but if you're a thief, you're a thief. Just because I steal diamonds and you steal people's purses, we're still thieves.
Yeah, I don't subscribe to that. I just don't.
Oh, okay. I guess one isn't a thief.
Because like if you're like in a fight, right? And there's like I don't know, just because there's not like rules that are actually written down, like I don't know, there might be some unwritten rules to the game, and you might be like, damn, like that one guy fights really dirty. And then someone else might run up on you and be like, well, it's fighting. Everyone fights dirty. And it's like, yeah, but this guy fights really dirty. Like,
yeah, I don't know what dirty fighting is if I'm in the street. I don't know what that means. So I guess it comes down to perspective.
I didn't say it was the street. But my point is that like not everything has to be the same, right? Like just because two things are dirty, like you might drop something, on a relatively clean floor, wipe it off, be good and eat it, right? Or you might like drop something in some like, I don't know, and some nasty like dirty trash filled street and like not be ready to wipe that off and eat it. You can technically say they were both dirty, but there's like degrees of things. That's like a common sense thing. And it's like it's really hard to argue against.
But I
common
think
sense.
also like
it's not common sense.
When I say like the player and like donate the player and the game and yada yada yada, when I refer to the game, I refer to the game of how the American system is set up, not by party, because it doesn't matter who's in charge. We could have a blue unicorn in charge, but
I mean,
they're
Democrats
still trying to fuck up,
put a president in office using the mafia.
and they're still trying.
What are we doing here?
Either way, no matter if we could put a blue unicorn in office, and they're still going to try to fuck over marginalized communities, and sometimes people go along to get along, and I'm saying I don't like it. Like instead of like focusing on like Barack Obama as an individual, focus on the system that he felt forced to play along with.
Yeah, well certainly like
I don't think his hand was forced. He was quite comfortable.
Yeah, like listen, like the mafia, I mean, first of all, I mean, do you have proof that the mafia
it's been historically proven. Like now we're now.
And can you show
yes.
me? Can you show me where?
We know. Okay, we know though. You can go. You can do that research. You can do that.
So the last time we had an argument.
Hold on, wait a minute. You asked.
Me. It was
on
me.
No. But you didn't. You didn't. But I'm not about to go. You can literally. You can just Google it. I have to go Google it when you're on your phone right now and you can Google it.
I'm not on my phone.
You know the history. You know how his brother turned against the mob and the mob got mad. We know that the mob leaned on the union. Like we know this. So
when I say that,
like conjecture.
When I say that, it's been proven that jobs and like a better economy and education.
But see, Mike, I did that research. Before I went into the conversation with you, I had done that research and I have no evidence of it. I actually did the research. That's what that's why I asked you, because I did the research.
Okay.
I can't find it. I even talked to other people after I talked to you to make sure that I wasn't crazy. And they came up with, well, no, there isn't any place that we can say that since Oklahoma was burned, there isn't any since Black Wall Street. Like Mike, legit,
wait.
As my man.
Finish your sentence.
I am. As my man, legit, I talked to people. I researched even after we had our conversation.
About what? You haven't said what yet?
Specifically what you're talking about.
But you haven't said what? About what? About the link between poverty and violence?
About any area that jobs have went to, that people brought businesses and jobs to, and the area changed.
Okay.
Yeah, that's called gentrification.
Literally, that's what I was just about to say. I got people telling me about gentrification, and guess who didn't benefit? That's literally, I'm glad because that's literally what I was just about to say.
That's a different question. It's a multifaceted issue. Like, yeah, like people, there are negative aspects to gentrification, but I'm specifically talking about if you can educate people and bring jobs to the area, there's going to be less desperation.
Mike, I never refuted that idea.
But who
I
are
think
those
it's a great idea and it's logical.
Who are those jobs going to,
able
though?
to find examples. Is all. That's all I'm saying.
Emily, that's not that. Mike, my assertion was that if you can bring jobs to like the people where they're needed, I'm not talking about like gentrification or the jobs not going to where they're needed. This was a specific.
And Mike's assertion is an assertion that I agree with. In principle, I think it's logical and I think it's a good idea. I just couldn't find examples supporting it, and I still agree with it.
Rewind. What is the specific assertion? Because it sounds like I got lost.
Oh, the assertion is that that you can impact, you can decrease the tendency of like violence in an area by bringing like jobs and education.
Yeah, that's not disputable. Like that's true. I would agree with that. But I think the question is much more about like how the jobs in education are brought.
Well, yeah, but wasn't where we were.
So Mike and I's contention was, because while you say that's true, that's where I disagree. I agree. I think it's logical. I think it's a good idea. I personally have found no examples that show that to be true outside of the logic in the idea. I just haven't found an example. The only example that I can cite is Oklahoma in the 1920s.
Well, you can do studies in New York City, and you can see that like for instance, people like Giuliani and like all these other people, they try to take credit for decreasing violence in places like New York City, right? Like by cracking heads and doing all this racist bullshit that they show. But if you look at the charts, at the same time that the economy is improving, then like the violence and stuff that they're taking credit for decreasing is decreasing at the same time that the economy is improving. And like if you look at like the violence and all the desperation that New York City was famous for in the 70s, like as like the economy like grew and things got more positive and New York became a hustling, like bustling city of like opportunity, the violence decreased. And then if you look at the areas that did not receive the same attention, like specifically places like the Bronx have always been the worst. Some would say that the Bronx was like left behind in time. Those places kept like a higher amount of violence than the other places.
Or like a Brownsville where some
I was
going to
say
lived.
Brownsville was exactly what I was going to say next. Or East New York, or the famous places in New York City that are known for violence are known for less opportunities. I mean, to the point where it's
parts of Jamaica.
Yeah, I mean, it's known as common sense, but in a conversation, if I can't say S. Lee, Social Theory and Practice 1996 at pdcnet.org, then like I can't have the conversation because I can't like cite a specific like article.
Well, I didn't ask to cite an article. I was just asking for examples, which you didn't give me at the day we had the conversation. And I had done the research before we had the conversation, as I'm sure you know.
So
and I did the research after the conversation.
So you didn't look up Brownsville or New York City in the 70s or like any of
I
this
looked
other
up New
stuff?
York City. I looked up areas where impoverished areas where jobs were brought to. That's what I Googled.
And what did you find about New York?
New York didn't come up. Oklahoma came up.
You should Google New York.
Because literally Black Wall Street came up.
Can I say something?
Please.
This is going back to actually, I meant to say this earlier when we were still on topic, but we veered in a different direction. And it was about the differences. It was like about politics and fighting dirty, and quote unquote, and the difference in your stances on like, I agree with Flav's assertion that there are different levels of bad. One type of bad is worse than the, like, you know what I mean? Like in terms of like, just saying, you know, like, I don't think that like, oh, well, we're both being shady. Like, I mean, yeah, if you're both being shady, you're both being shady, but there are definitely different levels and some are worse than others. What I don't necessarily agree with is that one side is necessarily worse than the other. And just because I happen to lean more towards one side doesn't mean that I'm going to say like, oh, you know, like, I don't think that we're as dirty as the other, especially when you have people in here saying that we should get dirtier. Because not to attack, I'm not trying to attack anybody when I say that, but I'm pointing that out as a way of saying it's almost like if you agree that what you're doing is right, that it's almost like justifiable to get down and dirty to
But
make
that's
sure
not
that your
what
side wins. I'm not
that's
saying
not
that
what
that's
I
what you
meant,
meant.
though.
I'm not saying that that's what you meant. I'm
Well,
not
what
saying
if
that that's what
what
you
if
meant.
that the other side is so much dirtier that you can agree that your side should get dirtier and actually like be ready to get down and dirty to fight, and that there's still room to like not be as dirty as the other side. That's how
Right.
much space
That's
you
the
give.
Right.
point,
The idea that we're so righteous that any underhanded tactics that we use are justifiable because ultimately our ideas are better and they will save the country. And so
all
sometimes
the
we just have to
language you're
protect the people
using
from
is
this ourselves.
all the language you're using is inflammatory and unnecessary. No one said shit about righteous. No one said shit about right and all of that. We're just saying we're not willing to go as far as the other side, right?
We're not willing
been
to
an
play
issue.
defense is the
It's
problem.
it's always been an issue. Like we've never been willing to like go that far, right? Like I
Yeah,
mean,
we have.
you've worked
It's a
on
matter of opinion.
you've worked on plenty of campaigns where like the first thing where they tell you is like we're not fighting dirty, right? It's like the first thing that they tell you. Now, getting back to the mafia shit, like those guys were willing to fucking fight dirty, and they won probably because of it. The people that they were up against, they probably had better ideas than the other people did. But yeah, those guys were willing to get down and dirty. Now, I don't know what they said about their opponents. And JFK was a great orator, right?
Thanks for calling me out, by the way.
I mean, we call each other out, man. Like, it's all good. JFK is like one of the best orators in the world, but behind the scenes, his father was like this mafia guy who was known. Like, no, I mean, it's all good. Trust me. Ish has like, you know, given it to me good on many occasions. I mean, you remember fucking Quincy Jones was basically saying like, yeah, it was the mafia. That's why they got killed. And he was saying it wasn't even so much JFK, it was his father, right? It was his father who really tried to help his son win, who got those bad guys involved. And then it all went to shit and they didn't pay back their debts or like do what they were supposed to do. Or they
his brother spoke out against him publicly.
Yep. His brother spoke out against him. And, you know, they started basically going after them, right? So, yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm well aware of well aware that we can get dirty. And I think that's kind of like the thing is like, if we don't get dirty, I don't know, are we going to win?
That's the thing is like Democrats just sit there and take it when the other side is like bullying.
Yeah, like your Gores, you know, let them stop the count and stuff like that. And like those guys, they weren't going to win because they didn't want it bad enough. Yeah, I mean, you think Obama would have let them stop the count? I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't know if Gore let them stop the count. I think he.
Well, he didn't make any noise. I mean, he said he agreed.
He didn't make any noise. He did not make any noise.
You think? I mean, we already know what Trump would have done because we're seeing it right now, right?
Yeah,
Trump
we're witnessing it.
Trump didn't sit there and be like, "Oh, well, the counts are all in." Instead,
the counting in 2000 went on for over a month after Election Day. Like it went on for a long time. I don't know.
It's been a month.
It takes a long time though, but he still like let them stop. He still like said, okay.
Well, it wasn't a count; it was a recount. So somebody made noise on Gore's behalf. I don't know who it was.
Well, I don't know. To me, if you're gonna recount it, then like recount it. You know, when we recounted like,
it went all the way up to the Supreme Court. Yeah.
When we recounted Tiffany Caban's votes, for a while it looked like we were winning, and they recounted all the way to the end, and we lost like by the smallest margin. I was like, well, every vote's been recounted. We did indeed lose. Right?
What I actually didn't understand, like I was, and this could probably be like an entire like 70-minute conversation on its own.
Mm-hmm.
But I had trouble understanding. I was reading a news article where it was saying like a lot of people in certain neighborhoods, like in Queens, like Jamaica and like Cambria, Hollis, a lot of the black neighborhoods were not voting for Caban in that race, were voting for Katz. And I just didn't get it because like now Katz is the one prosecuting half my students.
Oh, well, I can tell you why. Because Caban is not known like that, and Caban is radical in some of her approaches. Like she's
So
on
it's
the
the same
whole
thing as the Biden versus Bernie thing, and black
Yeah.
people tending towards Biden.
Yeah.
Because now I'm seeing the effects of Katz as the DA personally, and people of color are getting smacked around out in Queens.
It's interesting. I just sent Mike an article and in text based upon the conversation we were discussing about jobs and speaking of what you said as well just now, Emily. And it's not the first link. It's just the first relevant link. It's the fourth link on Google. And it says, I sent it to Mike, I'm not going to read it, but the header is job growth is no cure for communities' poverty study finds. And the reason why is because the people you just mentioned get left behind, even in those communities where there are job growth, according to this study. Not that this is the only study, just according to this study.
Even the people like my students and their families who
Yes,
are getting smacked,
because
who are
it's
getting their
usually
asses
people who
handed
have
to them.
people who have higher incomes or live in higher income or who have houses that cost more that usually benefit from job growth in low income communities. But that's, again, this is just a study. So I don't even give this study the validity. I'd have to compare it to studies that say the opposite. And you know what I mean? This is just the fourth link, but the first relevant link that I saw.
This isn't, I mean, this is talking about poverty versus job growth. I mean, we were talking about jobs.
Well, we conceded that poverty contributes to violence.
Right.
So that's why I felt it was relevant.
Okay, but this is talking about job growth versus poverty.
Right, because job growth is no cure for communities' poverty. And if the poverty is the reason why there's violence, and we're saying that the fix is jobs,
I mean, I think that part of an argument could be made for part of the fix being education.
Well, that's what I said is jobs and education.
Because this, I mean, given this is anecdotal on my part, but what I see with my students, since we've been on remote learning, like during the pandemic, they don't take it, many of them, not all, but many of them don't take it as seriously as they would being in the building all day. And
Yeah.
there's some days where I say, like, I wish we could just, I've actually said it to the counselors about specific kids where I've said, I want you to try to get this kid back in the building when you're inviting kids back into the building. And I want them sitting their butt in a chair in front of me where I can at least like keep watch on what they're doing. Cause they were out on this, they were not quarantining when the schools were closed and on remote. They were out on the block getting into stuff and sometimes making some serious mistakes, being with people who didn't have their best interests at heart, that I'm convinced they would not have made those mistakes were they in school, you know? So that's what, so like educational opportunities need to be there at the very least to keep teenagers busy and keep them, for lack
One
of a
of the
better
things
term,
that
out of
people don't
trouble.
one of the things that people don't consider is even with educational opportunities and job growth, people who get improved income look for improved quality of life. They look to leave the
This is
communities where they
true.
were poor.
This is true. And people look at, I see that because I've been looked at very strangely by people who have done the opposite of me, in the sense that, like, ostensibly, you know, they grew up in my neighborhood and couldn't wait to get the heck out of Dodge and move to Connecticut, to the
Which is
suburbs.
how I grew up. Like nobody comes into money or gets opportunities and then says, I'm just going to stay here in the hood.
And
I
people
kind of
think
I have a friend who I talk to quite a bit. And one of the things that he said a couple years ago that just strikes me as, he loves his mom. He's a very filial son. But one of the things he holds against his mom is that when she got better opportunities, she didn't take her children out of the projects because it was cheaper for her to live there. And that's something that bothers him.
I mean, like, he's certainly not the only person that I've heard with that sentiment.
But yeah, I mean, that only goes to, I mean, yeah, of course, like, if your opportunities improve, one of the first things you want to do is, like, you know, move to a place where you're going to feel like you have better opportunities, right? Like you're either safer or like more comfortable or what have you.
I mean, it's very.
I wonder how that changes the culture of the communities that those people are leaving, though.
Yeah,
It's very interesting, like, because that's kind of where, like, the whole gentrification comes in. Because I notice, like, well, number one, people always look at me funny anyways, because of the fact that I grew up in the suburbs and am totally cool, like living in Harlem now, and honestly like my neighborhood and have been here over 10 years, like since pre-gentrification really taking hold. But like,
well, wouldn't you be considered a part of the gentrification process?
The beginning of it is what I mean.
As a white woman living in Harlem?
Yes, the beginning of it, though. And the reason why I say that is because legit, like, when we moved in, there was only one other white person in the whole building. And now there's like families moving out. They renovate the apartment, they flip the apartment, and groups of white kids, like fresh out of college, move in and pay more money.
First of all, I just want to say that I don't think that a community where people live has to necessarily be cultural. I think that gentrification is a thing, and it is one thing, but I don't think it applies when you're talking about, I've lived in communities like when I lived in Riverside, which is not a high income community, but is a cultural melting pot, right? It's considered, urban, but you have white people, Hispanic people, Native Americans, Asians, and Black people all living almost equally, it's in equal numbers in one area of Buffalo, Riverside. You understand what I'm saying? So I think if gentrification would impact it, not because white people or any one color start moving there, but because
that negative aspect of gentrification where monies are giving to people to develop, and people come in and develop, and they price the people in those communities out of the communities. You understand what I'm saying?
No, I know,
That's,
I do. And I mean, I don't think, like, as far as class-wise, I mean, like, I don't think they're making too much. I don't think we're gentrifiers in the sense that I don't think they're making too much money